Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Collective. We have an outstanding show for you planned today, and we have some awesome guests again. Once again,
Microphone.
microphone. You can't hear my microphone? What's wrong with my
Only
microphone?
when you
I
get
can hear
close to it.
Okay, let me
Yeah, there you go.
get a little close. There we go. So we have our good friend Chris joining us once again from down south, and we have our new friend Jeff joining us from down there. He is a former. Wait, let me see if I can get this right. Actor, then Green Beret, then actor again. Is that about right?
I was like, that's straight from my Instagram, more or less. Yeah.
Well, can you fill us in on anything that needs to be said, or are you?
No,
Good
I
to
mean,
go,
that's
John.
the gist of it. Like, that's literally the bio because I took forever to go into SF, Special Forces, and then I dabbled in pre-med, played in acting in college, and I was like, this is stupid. And then I went and did other stupid stuff, injured my mind, body, and soul. And then I went back to do more go back to the original stupid stuff. That's short version.
Seems like, well, as long as you're consistent, right? Like that's important, right?
Seems like a trend.
Inaccuracy isn't the same as in being inconsistent. They're two different things.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's dive into. I got a couple concepts that I want to jump into right away, but before we do, are there any thoughts, any questions? Anybody got anything burning in the top of their brain that they want to expel to the internet?
No.
Bueller?
I'm doing
No?
enough
Okay.
daily.
When it's on the internet, it's there
I just
forever.
gotta watch.
All right. Well, let's jump into a quick one, and this is an interesting one because I struggle with this regularly. Where does backwards planning stop? And the reason I bring this up is that recently, with this new house that I just bought, I've been peeling away some of the issues, and I'm like, okay, well, now I need to pull this drywall off. Okay, well, now that I'm seeing underneath the drywall, I need to put new insulation in. Okay, well, now that I need to put new insulation in, if I'm gonna do that, I may want to set my new plumbing up. So I should probably run my plumbing lines. But if I'm gonna run plumbing lines, if I'm gonna do anything new, then I should probably rip some of the other plumbing out. And if I do that, then I'm gonna have to pull walls in the hole up here, and it just, you get that mission creep of like, and then I'm tearing my whole house down, and I'm just building it from scratch.
Building a new house.
Yeah. So where does it stop? How do we get ourselves to go, okay, whoa, draw a line, stop right here, start work?
Well, I think
It's called your
I
wallet.
was gonna say. I think that's I was gonna say your better half. That's the thing that's gonna like check you, because I'm sure I speak to everybody's gonna be like, yeah, all those things we took from our previous lives, or if we're still running those lives, they're awesome benefits. But then there's an inertia you can't turn off, because like you said, like you just described a Tuesday for me. I could just be doing one thing with the dog, next thing I'm like, if I go clear to a complete remodel, and I call her pre-wife because I haven't proposed, so I'll just call pre-wife from here on out. She'll be like, next thing you know, I've destroyed the garage when all I was trying to do was just like install a power strip,
Yeah.
So honestly, I think it's our better halves. Like that's the thing that stops me, honestly.
Well, let's say if somebody doesn't have a better half. Chris, you got any thoughts on that? Any thoughts, Chris?
No, I think the moral of the story is don't tear down the drywall to begin with, right?
Oh, don't even enter into it. I like it.
Build it from scratch.
I think we all kind of suffer from that. And I saw I'm sure it was a TikTok or something, but it was from Malcolm in the Middle, where the dad just needed to change a light bulb or something, and then he winds up tearing out the whole engine in his car because like the steps just kind of build on each other. Well, I gotta go to the store to get the thing or whatever, and then the engine's not working right, so I'll just tear that out. So yeah, that's a great question. I think backwards planning should be guidelines and not maybe not figured out on the fly, because like if you're in the midst of the mission or whatever, like there's always going to be another thing to tackle and to address, right? So maybe have like all right, I'm only going to do this today and not dismantle my engine. So.
Yeah,
smart. Seb, any thoughts?
I think that's the thing is go ahead, Seb.
Jeff,
sorry.
yeah.
No. I was going to say is just right off what Chris just said, is like, that's the thing we got to keep ourselves in check transitioning out, is like everything's not care under fire and all this cool stuff that like served a purpose. Whereas I just went to change a light bulb one day, Next thing you know, I had a new light housing. I was like soldering an LED. It was created the Malcolm in the Middle thing, and all I wanted was to clean the milky color off the lens of my truck headlight. You know, it's all I started with. And the thing that the self-awareness, God forbid we get that someday in our life before we die, is like Chris said, is actually like identifying that thing and going, here's the end point, and actually identifying that. Because the reason I kept saying better half is because next thing you know, 16 hours have passed and you've neglected your family or your children or whatever. And you're like, once I accomplish this goal, the light bulb, I will stop because I'm going to make myself insane. And like, I think guys like us, you have to identify that because, and as childish as it is, if you don't, guys like us will just go forever. And it's just piggybacking off Chris said, you have to identify it and commit and promise to yourself, like an AA meeting, you are stopping right here and you're done.
I like it. Seb?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I mean, it's kind of like looking through a strainer versus looking with or pointing with a laser. You know, you have to prioritize and execute. I mean, if you don't, you're going to confuse not only yourself but everybody else. So I find this to be very sort of metaphorically applicable, because if you're looking at what Chance did wrong in this case, is start with cosmetic. If you went fundamentals, you wouldn't have went backwards. But you're changing the appearance without changing the fundamentals. So it's kind of the same with planning, my opinion.
That's a great point. Shaun, anything to round us off here?
Yeah, sure. I think that the planning starts before you purchase a house. It's called a home inspection. And so the idea of buying a house and then thinking, I wonder what's wrong with it. Maybe I'll see what's behind this drywall. You know, that's not usually how things should play out. And so if you're starting on the start line on the first minute of the race, we'll call it, you should know what you're stepping up to when you stand on that start line, called buying a house or whatever. None of it should be an ambush. And if you find yourself in an ambush called, oh, what's behind the drywall? That's not an ambush. Just pause, 2, 3, figure out what your best bang for the buck is in the moment. And I mean your life, not your wallet. And then execute accordingly. So I don't go backwards too much like that. I think of that as devolving, which I think it is. And it doesn't have to happen. I don't feel like that unconsciously happens to me. I'm very conscious when it's happening, and I shut that grid down because I realize that it's devolving. Where does it stop? Next thing you know, you've got a club in your hand and you're wearing a loincloth, you know? So is there something wrong with this? Which is fun.
Well, wait a minute.
It can be fun, but I think that maybe I was more prone to it when I was younger and I'm less prone to it now. Maybe I made a ton of mistakes when I was younger and I make less now. I just don't work that way anymore. I don't unconsciously backwards slip.
That's a great point. And what I actually had to do in order to stop myself was I limited myself to like 8 feet of wall. That was that was my limit. I was like, okay, I'm going to fix this 8 feet of wall. Once this is fixed, then I can move on to the next project, and then I can move on to the next, and so on and so forth. That way I'm not trying to run plumbing and do electrical and try to do new drywall and frame and blah, 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 blah. But that's a great point in the fact that I knew I was going to have to do work on this house when I bought it. I don't think I allowed myself to dig deep enough, because I did have a home inspection. Just so you know, there was an inspection done. It was all of the extra stuff afterwards that we figured out. That's the fun part. But got a couple comments here. First off, Winterstorm says, good morning. Morning, Winterstorm.
Morning.
Alan, what's up?
Oh, God.
Thanks for watching. He's watching. Everybody, he's watching. He got eyes on.
I know. I have a feeling he's outside my door.
I think that's everyone's feeling that knows him. And then Winterstorm says, we backwards plan our lives so much we stop moving forward. And I think this is a key point, because if you allow this mission creep to take over, you will stop, and it becomes paralysis by analysis. I'm about that, right?
No,
so let's
100%.
So let's talk. Let's say you're in the paralysis by analysis. How do you get out? Who wants to jump on it?
I think that's the white noise, is that whole adaptation from whatever it was that got us this way, a handful of us, we can probably safely know what enhanced this mind frame of ours. But like really like can't remember who said it when they were talking about like the de-evolving thing, like into caveman stuff. Really go back to the root of why we backwards plan. Just the simplicity of, I think about it when Betty and I have to go to mass. We have to go to mass and it starts at this time. No matter what I do, how much drywall I tear up, mass is starting here. We live 10 minutes away. It takes Betty this much time to do whatever. It takes me this much time. That's backwards planning as it should be. And then that, to me, like if you actually apply it to like the stuff we didn't do, because then you can't paralysis the simple facts, you know, this timeline. And I think guys like us, or people can be like, get into that paralysis by analysis, because it's the whole, what do we call it? The good idea fairy. If you don't keep those constraints, next thing you know, you're your own worst enemy. And it's just like keeping your conscious of that avoiding that de-evolution. And I'm horrible. This is all easier said than done. But I am that guy that Winter Storm mentioned. I don't move forward. All I do is I plan for 10,000 things that could go wrong. And this is on a Monday. Next thing I know, it's Wednesday. And I've got all those plans in line, but I've yet to pull a trigger at all. And that is, I don't know about you guys, I'm not 30, 18, or 20 anymore. I don't have time to waste my life on all those things that could have happened. And that's the proverbial Buddha stuff we're trying to find and be better at, because next thing you know, you're missing a kid's birthday because you're OCDing on something that really doesn't matter.
Yeah. The drywall. God, the drywall.
If you're
Chris,
having
any
nightmares
thoughts?
about drywall.
Yeah. Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah. So the folks I work with these days, I think where I shine. So when I work with somebody, we always start with, all right, tell me in 5 years, tell me the kind of person you want to become. And then from there, we'll stack goals on top of that. And that's the sexy part. And that's the part everybody kind of enjoys, because it's like they can really start to see the potential within themselves of like, man, I could really change my life. And then where guys like us, our expertise is the backwards planning. And so that's kind of where I jump in and say, all right, in 5 years, this is where we're going to be. And we just start rewinding all the way down to like the daily level. And the reason I break it all the way down to that is because regardless of kind of what your goal is, I have found that when you break it down to, all right, what do I have to do today to be where I want to be in 5 years? The step is so tiny that it's not intimidating, and the bar is so low. It takes like very little willpower and motivation to take the step. And so I actually really enjoy the backwards planning, because it takes kind of some of the intimidation out of those big sexy goals that we've set for ourselves. And like, oh, if I'm just consistent, I can really do whatever I want. I think though, it has to be constrained within like your right and left limit of like, all right, what is your value system? Let's not get influenced by the goals that other people want you to have, but rather like, tell me who you want to be. All right, let's put goals based on that value system in your plan, and then we'll create a daily action plan based on that. That's kind of how I approach it.
I like it. Small wins, right? The little
exactly.
little
and
wins over time.
You build up that psychological momentum of man, I did my thing today, and then it just kind of compounds on itself, and that's kind of what I refer to it as compound effort of interest. Compound interest of effort over the course of 5 years. Those tiny little steps every day is just like you look as though you've been superhuman because you've been able to accomplish so much.
That's wicked. Saber, Shaun, anything on how to get out of the zone?
Excuse me. Yeah, you're closing that dopamine loop basically from a neuroscience standpoint, which is great. And those micro wins, we've spoken about them at great length over the last 3, 4, 5 episode or whatever, but I believe in them so wholeheartedly. But I really like what Jeff was saying. It is Jeff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because he's taking the name down, so I'm. What Jeff was saying there is basically logically overriding. You know, the whole staying back there and trying to do certain things is an emotional state, and as long as we recognize that, we can override it. And what Jeff said was exactly that. Like, what is the end goal, and how is what I'm doing now or taking on contributing to the end goal? Yeah. And if it isn't, then how am I going to go about making sure that I do the things that are conducive to it? So it's actually a lot of people think that, oh, well, your brain either doesn't work like that or works like that. And it's not the case. A lot of the times we have to shut down the voices. If you go through life listening to all the voices that are going through your head, you're not going to get anything accomplished. So you have to have the ability to override things with knowledge and facts. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well,
Sean,
if I can,
yeah, Jeff, by all
I
means,
was
jump on.
gonna say, a bro thing, not to hijack it, but like a bro thing, I'd be amiss if I didn't reference something to do with the gym using my testosterone background here. But like, as cliche as it is, but like if tons of people come to at least me or come to us and go, like, I literally had Chris, an old teammate, an old ODA buddy of mine I haven't spoke to in years, and it's not easy for people to heartfelt reach out. And this guy reached out, and one of the last things he asked about, he's like, I need to train. And like, if you I'm like, okay, here's everything you need to do. It's overwhelming and people quit. And seriously, this sounds like a bro coach thing, but like truly, if you break that down to what Seb was saying about it's cliche as hell, and I hated hearing it too, but the one foot in front of the other, get up and go to the gym. Who cares about 4 years from now training and weighing your food or whatever you decide to do, like that little stuff? Because guys like us, or at least me, maybe I'm just preaching the choir and dumping on you guys too, but we hear those voices Seb was saying, and for some reason, especially if you were in a past life where you're operating with 2 and 3 people alone, sometimes maybe one, you might have been forced to actually give those voices the time of day and entertain them. And we actually now have to de-address those things and go, shut the F up, and one step in front of the other. This isn't how life is. It's unsustainable. That worked in this acute world, but it's unsustainable. And if you don't make it like bite-sized pieces, you're going to quit. You're going to overwhelm yourself. People that aren't like us are going to quit. That one step in front of the other thing, like it's unmanageable if you don't make it baby steps. Like some people just like, I just got to get out of bed today, and that's like you said, the micro wins. I'm going to steal that. I love that. That's huge.
Amazing.
I stole it from somebody else too. Don't worry about that.
We all steal it.
My bar is low.
Sean, any thoughts on getting out of that paralysis?
Yeah, so maybe it's easy for a group like this or not. I'm hearing some things that don't sound particularly easy. What I will say is this, that if anyone's struggling on how to proceed forward and you can't do it by yourself, go find a freaking coach. So as I was listening to Chris, here's what I was thinking. There's very few people who know how to proceed forward really well. There aren't that many. And in this group right now, maybe all of us do, maybe none of us do. I don't know. But I know that the average person isn't a coach. They can't coach themselves. And perhaps they've never even been involved with a coach. So their way is the only way they know. And their way isn't working for them in most circumstances. And so if they're looking to proceed forward rather than backslide or stay static, you got to reach out to someone like Chris as an example and figure out, if not just strategy, then figure out strategy and executable action items that Chris can guide you towards. Because if you think that you haven't got it figured out now, you definitely don't have it figured out 10 years from now. The only thing you'll be able to do is look back 10 years ago and realize that then you had a chance, but now you've backslid so much that you may not have that chance. So don't take it casual that I've got time. Maybe I'll figure this stuff out in a couple of years. Maybe I'll reach out to a coach in a few years. Right now, I'm just going to dabble. You got to engage. If you want to be excellent, you've got to seek excellence, whatever excellence means to you. And so you probably don't have it figured out yourself, or you wouldn't be having the thoughts of how to do it better. So go find someone who has done it better and follow them for a little while and see where it takes you.
I got something to add, if I may. This is a great point, and I think I'd be surmised to let it slip. But I mean, think of it this way: people are procrastinating because they don't know what to do, not because they necessarily don't want to do it. And the hardest thing for them to do is to actually admit that to themselves. And you have to have that honest conversation. And once you do, to find the person that can actually help you. And this speaks to unconscious incompetence versus being consciously incompetent and knowing exactly that somebody can help you. And I have guys sometimes, tapping into me, and they're like, you know, I have a hard time swimming, but I've been swimming, you know, 5 days a week. I've been doing this. So my first question is, who's coaching you? Because if you're swimming 5 days a week, but you don't know how to swim, it's not going to do much aside from building a fake sense of confidence. When you can have somebody come and work with you and actually get you to a point where you're actually increasing on those skills or building upon those skills. And so, and it literally applies to absolutely everything. What's interesting is when you go at the tier 1 level, and when you start seeing really high performers, they have less of an issue engaging coaches than people at the lower. And I think that has to do with having been shoulder to shoulder with failure for so long. And I've seen really good guys fail certain things, and it takes the sort of the impact that the potential for failure has, but also it basically brings them to have the ability to seek and tap into the best resource possible to maximize their skills. Look at a guy like DJ Shipley, for example, that's shooting with the guy from SIG. You know, you got a guy like DJ that's been, you know, a decade in Dev Group, and next thing you know, he's being coached by a guy that's never been shot at. He's never been on a 2-day range. But what did DJ say? Like, he's clean me up, please. You know, you need to have that kind of mindset. And so that's a super important point.
Absolutely. There's something that like clicked in my head here a little bit while we were talking, was the fact that if you set your bar low and you continually win, then you're going to get to a point where you are overconfident. But at the same time, I mean, what I mean is by that is that you can exceed the confidence of the skill set that you've built, right? Your confidence can exceed the skill set that you've built. And the challenge is actually knowing when to raise the bar, right? Because micro wins are great, and it's good to have all those micro wins. But I mean, like, I got out of bed today. Micro win, right? Like, I could eat. That's not.
You'll micro win again tomorrow,
and I will.
I believe it.
Maybe.
But
congratulations.
The thing is that I don't have a hard time getting out of bed, right? So for me, that's not really a micro win. You know, Shaun and I were talking about this a while ago in another show about having Dorito bag slippers, right? I could kick those Dorito bag slippers off. I don't really wear them that often. It's not a hard win for me, right? So I think. Where do we find that line where we say, okay, that was, I need to raise the bar. I need to make this harder on myself, or I need to find something more challenging, if you get what I'm saying.
I think to say what Chris was saying is like identifying, and I this is all easier said than done for me, especially. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I can spew all this to everybody under the sun, but applying it to myself is one thing. But actually identifying, okay, Monday through Friday, I'm going to get out of bed. And at Friday, if I did it 5 days in a row, that's 100% success. Time to evolve, you know, and, you know, whatever the example is, the Dorito slippers, whatever it is, get out of bed, go to bed early, hit the gym 3 days a week. If you keep consistent, like you're saying, Seth, or I can't remember who was saying it, like hitting 100%, you're done. But then there's the other thing about the coaches, like that is lovely. And it's the one thing in this day and age, there's no excuse not to have, whether you're paying for a coach or not, odds are, and I'm not being hard on myself or anybody out there, that individual, my problem or your problem or whoever it is, their problem, their interest, their struggle or whatever, there's probably not already a YouTube coaching scenario for it. So not get a coach. I mean, as you guys were talking, and Chris might actually appreciate this because I think we're give or take the same age. As we were talking, I literally looked over here, and there was one book when I went through selection. It was called Get Selected for Special Forces. Now, the amount of courses and classes and things you can go to, it's inexcusable. If you fail, it's because your leg broke or it just wasn't made for you. And a lot of it's you can probably get a lot of it for free now. So the excuse to not take the coaches, and I mean now metaphorically, it's hard. That coach, and especially if you hire one, like Seb was touching on, that's the guy that'll be like, okay, you've got out of bed 3 days in a row, which time to raise that bar. This is pathetic. Like time to, you know, like that's where coaches are awesome, whether it's fitness, coaches in business, or in, you know, military shenanigans. It's those coaches are priceless, and I really love that you brought that up, Seb. That's
well, huge. They are priceless except when they're not. So let me just throw this at you. So my live
Touche.
IG chat just before I jumped into this live. So literally 30 minutes ago, I was saying this live on IG. Because I was wearing this shirt, and someone who follows me jumped in with a comment and said, "Hey, Shaun, I weigh 300 pounds, and will I be able to jump out of a plane this summer at Operation Pegasus Jump?" And I don't know him. I've never spoken to him before. And my response back to him was, I don't know what the cap is or what the weight limit is to jump out of the plane. You'll have to hit up Tim Turner, who's a friend of ours, who's kind of highly involved with Operation Pegasus Jump. Gave him the call sign for Tim Turner. And then I said to him in a live offer, hey, bro, if you want to lose the weight, hit me up in my DMs and I'll kick your freaking arse.
Yeah.
If you want it, I'll make it happen. But it ain't
Awesome.
going to be pretty. Like, it's going to sting. I'm a taskmaster, and you may regret contacting me in my DMs, but I'll get you to where you need to be. But it is no easy gig. Now,
Yeah.
that's coming from, I high performance coach for 15 years, athletes all around the world. I don't do that anymore. I stopped that just over a year ago. And I don't give my services to anyone. I don't sell my services to anyone anymore. But I will do it for free at the right moment for the right person if they get in the game. Now, this guy who hit me up, if he hits me up tomorrow, the day after, whatever, if he shows up with the right intention and really wants to change, I'll turn him inside out. He'll become a Rad Master 9000, no doubt about it, but it'll sting. So he's got to want it. And that's the trick with me or with any good coach or whatever. Getting up in the morning, every morning is not enough.
Oh, yeah.
Day one, congratulations, box check. Guess what we're going to do today? It's going to be way worse than getting out of bed. And so that's just the way it has to be. If you can't do it yourself, if this individual at 300 pounds can't fix what he knows he needs to fix, I'll freaking fix it for him. And that's what we're talking about. If you can't do it for you, go find someone who can do it for you until you get your feet underneath you, until you feel a little more confidence, a little more forward direction. You can see things more clearly. Then freaking take over yourself. But until then, go find any coach that can get you moving across the start line.
Yeah, great point.
Well, and a coach, what Shaun was saying, a coach can't create the seed. The client, the audience, whatever you want to say, the person receiving the coaching. Obviously, sometimes certain techniques, like I love what you're saying, Shaun, like you're going to light them up. But if that seed isn't there to grow and be lit up or be receptive of that lightning strike, you can only,
critical point.
You can't grow spirit. You can grow it. You can help coach the hell out of it. But if that person isn't willing to, and that gets into a whole like generational comment, and I won't get into, but like I love that. Like it's reading the audience, because a good coach can read their for, in your case, like their athlete, and find that thing and pray on it like they should.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
like you said, getting
salivating as I pray on it.
Yeah, you're Smithers just going, yes, you know, or Mr. Burns, you know, but like if getting out of bed for them is a win, an intense psycho coach, that might not work for that person because it actually could shut them off. You know, that's the whole, which sucks, because some people that just, you know, it's knowing your audience. But you're absolutely right. Like getting out of bed shouldn't be a win 15 days in a row. It's time to light some fires.
Time to get working. Chris or Seb, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah. I kind of agreeing with Jeff. Like sometimes the people that reach out to me, I have to kind of gauge whether or not they want the drill sergeant or the big brother. You know what I mean? And then, coming out of the Army, where being assertive is like, just tell me what you want, or like, tell me what's going on. Like, just don't beat around the bush. Like I had to kind of dial that back a little bit. But something that I think helps with folks that are trying to achieve some kind of fitness goal or something like that is when you start with like, what kind of person you want to be physically. I try to get away from the goal being the scale number, or because like it's like an end state where in reality, the real goal is for them to just be a healthy person for the rest of their life, you know? And so I try to switch them from like, all right, I don't get out of the whole, get a beach body by summer, and get more into like, be able to outperform your grandkids when they're running around you, you know, more like marathon versus sprinter. And so in that regard, it's like, and depending on who you're working with, some people want the drill sergeant and say, yeah, like cracking that whip is, it's nice to get back there sometimes, but not everybody is ready for that. And yeah, you got to kind of, and again, I had to relearn how to do this, but coddle them a little bit and kind of hold their hand as we get through. So that's kind of my thoughts.
There's another strategy, Chris. I just throw this in super quick. How I started my coaching was, I ain't going to convince you that I'm going to coach you. Here's how how's it going to work on day one? You're going to do your very best as a client to convince me that I'll actually accept you.
Yeah.
I look at everyone who showed up on my front doorstep of my email inbox, and if they didn't like beg me to coach them, see you later, because you don't have enough conviction. You got to really want to be coached to reach the levels that I'm going to push you. So it ain't dabbling with me. So if someone showed up and said, I'm thinking about, see you later.
Right.
Oh, I'd like to see you later. You got to show up like freaking, on like Donkey Kong. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Seb, any thoughts on?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I agree with Chris with the having the ability to adapt your style to different types, and this goes with leadership and everything. And you kind of have to do that. But also, when Shaun, pick somebody to coach, it had less to do with money and financial benefits or anything like that, or sustenance, than it had with, he needed to believe in the cause. He needed to, so there's a lot of things that are wrapped up in the decision to do that. And if that's the case, you have a lot more sort of lenience, to just kind of take the ones and select the ones that you want. And it's no different than anything in life. If you get really successful at something, you can start being selective about what you are doing. And so I'm totally good with that. And I had a great point. And where did it go now?
You went in the same place mine did the other day.
Exactly. Forgot it.
Did you eat Cheerios this morning?
No,
Oh my goodness.
I did not. What was it now? Anyways, I can't remember. If it comes back, I'll jump on. But yeah, I agree with that part. And then I think that's what it was. So the other thing is, if you take somebody on and you convince them, or you coddle them, or you did certain things that was conducive to them wanting to work with you, you're going to give them your heart and soul, and they will leave as soon as they can. And it happens all the time. I've spent a decade training athletes, and I gave them absolutely everything at 4:45 in the morning after a night shift until 3:00, not sleeping, doing the thing. And it didn't matter what the programming was, what everything was, how much progress they made. Eventually, they just left because they were never there in the first place. They were never fully committed. And it can be heartbreaking for a coach. It actually can be, if you're investing that much in someone, and they become a lot more than just an athlete by then, right? So it's a double-edged sword.
It is, and that's precisely why I had to flip the script on it, because I like yourself, I poured 101% of myself into every single person in those first couple of years, and I was like, this ain't working for me. They got to pour their self into me as well. It has to be reciprocal. It has to be a two-way street. And so on day one, they had to understand that they had to earn my coaching, not just get it. And so it's a tricky balance. I'm not saying that I was like a mega goof about it, but I held their feet to the fire. Like, oh, you want to show up tomorrow and be coached? Well, freaking earn today. Earn my respect as your coach. And so I know it sounds cruel and unusual or whatever, but I had to flip the script in order to be able to pour myself into a person and know that they were there for the right reason, not just because they wanted the coach of the day, wanted a sexy toy to say my name in a paragraph to their friends. Freaking earn your spot every day.
I love
But I
that.
think
It's all
that
about
goes with,
accountability,
like,
too, right? Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was flashing back to during some big time struggles in college. I went into cliche personal training, and the thing I couldn't go grab them and sales pitch them like a used car salesman. They needed the step for them to come to me and go, "Hey, I'm looking for a trainer." That automatically, kind of like what Shaun was saying, that they wanted to be there. Obviously, it's a horrible business model to go, they come to me, I'm not going to sell. But like you're saying, like if you could just get rid of that altruistic, put food on the table, like Seb was saying, and just focus and like pure coaching, whether it's business, fitness, or whatever. I'm just going to use fitness in this case. The people that came, they wanted to be there. And some people can adapt and overcome, and and you think about, like, even like they say about like psychologists or therapists or whatever, they just got to be a good fit. Some people need to be coddled, and some coaches aren't coddlers. Some people probably more or less like us, give or take, need somebody to come to us, and that right there is more than that's what we need. They came to us, we didn't go sell it to them. So right off the bat, they're there for a win. And we're not cheerleaders. There's a difference between cheerleading and coaching. And I truly think this is why I was a horrible personal trainer, by the way. Like, I only coached people that came to me, and nobody would come to me, so I never had clients. And I think, like Seb was saying, and I'm seriously, I'm not exaggerating for humor. Like I'm not a schmoozer. I can't do the used car salesman crap. They needed to come to me. And then the second thing is, I think Chris was saying, is like, if you're good at what you do as a coach, you should get rid of them. They shouldn't need you anymore. Like, I even know professional bodybuilders that still have coaches, but if you do your job right, you work yourself out of clients. Obviously, again, horrible business model. But if you're doing your job well, they can go on and do their thing. So, like, some people need the opposite of that, and then that's where they don't go to me, maybe don't go to Chris. Like, if they want to
Definitely don't go to Shaun.
I don't take them
or
either.
Shaun, yeah, Shaun, I didn't want to speak for you, but I got that vibe.
Oh,
If you
definitely
want
don't.
Oh,
and
man.
that's when
I
you
think-
just got to find your plug-in.
Yeah, I think the real key thing on this is that, especially for us, we're kind of used to impose discipline, right?
Yeah.
We're used to someone holding us accountable, directly accountable. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you said you were going to do X. Have you done it yet? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You either accomplished or you did not.
Well,
And I
yeah,
think that-
we're all used to it. But here's the next logical leap is this, and we know it works.
Yes.
So it's one thing to be used to it. It's an entirely different thing to be able to look back over a body of work and think, oh yeah, that's 100% legit. And so for anyone who's listening to this right now out there, or for the coaches in this panel right now, if you spend a decade coaching, 10 years from now or 20 years from now, you'll look back on that body of work and you get to think this, one of two things. I'm really satisfied with what I did. Or you get to think, oh man, I kind of sold out a little bit. Don't be that guy. And I'm not saying anyone here is a sellout, not at all, not even for a second. What I'm saying is that a long time in the future, many years from now, you're going to be looking back and cherry picking regret. And you don't want to regret that you ever lowered your standard, or ever, for lack of a better term, sold out, or did this, that, or the other thing because of considerations in that moment, the real-time needs. Bypass the needs. Like, if you need a buck, don't take the buck, because the buck won't matter 10 years from now. What will matter 10 years from now is the fact that you just wish you hadn't have taken that buck. So I used to say right from day one, I turn away more people than I accept. And okay, it's, for me, it was never about money. It was about my time. There's only so much time. And the time that I've got isn't about $1. It's about creating change. And so if I give up a minute to an athlete, they could pay me $1 million and I would never give them a minute of my time if they didn't respect my time. And so I put myself in a position pretty early on in my coaching to get rid of anyone that was not a positive attribute to the team, or was not in the game for themselves. So I'm not there to be a cheerleader, as it's being said. And I was never there to make a buck. The buck was an outcome, but I wasn't in it for the buck. And now 15 years later, I can look back and I'm super satisfied with my coaching career because I feel like I did it in, for lack of a better term, a righteous way. But again, I had the luxury of being able to turn people away.
Mm-hmm. It's a great point. I got a couple comments here that I wanted to bring up before we move on to anything else. But first off, Glenn was saying morning. So what's up, Glenn? How's it going? Good friend of ours. Chris says it's way more enjoyable and rewarding to help someone that wants change than to charge to train someone who doesn't want to be there. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather pay them to go away.
Right. We got Winter Storm says willpower is internal, skill is external. Coaching brings the two together. Ooh, that's a good thought. Any points on that? Anybody got any thoughts on that? No.
Yeah, for me, only one that I can make a theoretical segue with motivation and accountability. Those things are, especially accountability. Let's focus on this for a moment. Everybody's looking for external accountability. Bring your accountability everywhere you go, because there isn't going to be somebody following you around, making sure that you're accountable for your actions, that you're making the right decisions when you're, not walking your cart back in the mall parking lot, or doing, and at the end of the day, for me, is what would a person do when no one is watching? Like, I really don't care if somebody is there to keep you in line all the time, but when your left of arc is our flank and we are going to be under fire potentially, and you are not paying attention because nobody is watching. And so that's a concept that I really try to instill in my people. Try to control as many internal factors as you can, so you stop relying on external factors, validation included.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Then on a philosophical point, just to tie in this sentence from Winter Storm, at the spirit of things, I agree with that sentence completely. However, I would say that skill is external, but you've got to develop the skills internally to be able to run your internal game. It's skills. I mean, they're not just happenstance. They're not just things that autonomously happen. You have to practice controlling your internal as well as your external. So it's a skill-based system to intellectually understand how you can improve internally, and then apply skills, we'll call it, for lack of a better term. I'm not talking about chin-ups as the skill. Internal skills to manipulate that, not only in the real time, but contemplatively moving forward, how best to manage events 3 or 4 days from now, kind of thing.
That's a great point. I mean, it'd be really nice to be able to absorb skills through osmosis.
The Matrix.
I mean, I do. I've said it in the past. I learn by seeing. I'm a visual learner. So put me in a room full of highly skilled guys. If I get to watch a run through the CQB house, as an example, I can stand up on a catwalk and watch that run go through, and I'm better through absorbing it visually. It's not a case of I take on the skill like, oh, now I can fly a helicopter. It's not about that. It's about visually I learn, because I've learned how to learn visually. I've learned that in order to get better, I'm not just casually observing. I'm learning criticality in the moment. I'm taking on new skills because I'm looking for new skills. The devil is in the details, as they say. So you can stand on a catwalk and watch blurry things go through, or you can stand on a catwalk, slow time down, look for detail, take it on yourself, and try it on your next run and see if it works for you. So I learned through osmosis, man, for sure.
That's pretty sweet. I think that's the difference, though, between you're actively learning, right? You're watching it and actively learning, versus just sitting there and going, "Wow, that was a cool run," and then just. I think that's part of that equation, is to be continually and actively trying to learn. We do have one more
Sorry, I was just going to say, you're engaged in the process, and just imagine if you were to essentially proliferate that to all other areas of your life. Like, what if you read a book, for example, and once you're done with it, you've actually taken a substantial amount of lessons out of it, you know, or you read a chapter and you're like, the chapter said this, and this is what I got out of this, you know, instead of like, I would have to read it again because I actually was just going through the motions, right? So it really applies everywhere.
That is a great point. And I don't know how many times I've read a book and then, or been reading a book and get like 3-4 pages in, and you're all like, where did I? How? Wait a second. Like, I got to go back up a couple. Wait, okay, I remember here, but that's a great point too, because it's part of it. You got to be able to maintain that. This comment here I really like, and I wanted to expand into our conversation a little bit. And each person needs to bring as much as they can. And I like this because it makes me think of the barter system, right? I think since cash and money have been, you know, part of society so much that we've separated what it actually comes down to, right? Money used to be an equivalent of time. It used, like, if you actually had any, that £1 note used to be 1 pound of gold, and that gold was based off the fact that it takes this much time to get out of the ground and blah 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 blah. And I think nowadays we've separated it so much that money is just money, right? I'll just buy whatever. If I need to get fit, I'll just pay a trainer. Oh, I need to learn how to do this. Oh, I'll just pay that guy to teach me.
Value of a dollar.
Exactly. Versus what it actually is I want to learn how to play my guitar better. So I'm going to seek out someone that can teach me how to play my guitar better, and I am going to put in all of the effort I can to get the value out of that, right? Like, if I went to a class and I just sat there and was like, oh yeah, cool, man. Yeah, that's a cool chord. Awesome. And then I went home. I am not gaining value out of that. Right? He's not getting value out of that. Neither is Chris's washing machine. But I think that's something that we should kind of go around the table on, is that, do you think that this is, do you think it's a personal thing where people go, oh, right, I need to actually value time? Or do you think it's a learned skill, or not learned skill, but a learned habit to just negate the effort and throw money at it? Any thoughts? Who wants on? Jeff, I'm going to throw you on the fire.
Okay. Well, actually, good. I had something. Well, and I'm gonna quote somebody, and this is a little huggy here, but like Will Smith, whether you love him or hate him, he had a quote I looked up while you're talking, but I was listening. The separation of talent and skill is the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who want to do things. Talent you have naturally, skill is developed by hours and hours of beating on your craft. And that, I was thinking that while you guys were talking, especially Shaun, and then adding what you were saying about value, Chance, is like, I know what it takes, and this is so bro-y. If somebody wants to get their low body fat or whatever physique, you have a reference point. So I know the value of time. I have that reference point. I know what it took to drop weight for the Q course or whatever the heck is that value. And whether it's a value of $1 literally or gold or whatever. And like you said, I love that you brought that up, is we are losing value. And I'm not going to be old man on the mountain here, but the we're getting diluted by value. Like, all we see on the line online is success, and it seems instant. Whereas, you know, we don't, to have a reference point for like, oh, it takes 4 years to get a degree, or oh, it takes 60 weeks to be a Delta, or oh, it takes whatever I can reference point as, and I call it like my spectrum of suck. And I genuinely use that phrase a lot, is I know what it took to get from here to here because I experienced it. That's my value. And a lot of people, and again, not old grumpy man, wise man on the mountain, but like a lot of people are missing that value because of, like, kind of what Shaun was saying, is talent and skill are being very meshed. Is you can have all the talent in the world, but you can still suck at something no matter how much you work at it. And whether it's the internet or social media or whatever grandpa thing I can say here, is it's giving people, it's potentially screwing up their perspective of that value. Is we're getting further and further away. And I'm never going to forget that, Chance, about what you're saying, like the value of gold. I never thought of that. Like, I remember the value of $1. Like, $20 to me was 3 hours of my time mowing my dad's horrendous backyard. I had that reference point. And people are losing that reference point because we're like the word value, talent, and skill to me are the takeaways from today's chat is like those things are diluted. And that's my ramble.
Rant over. Bam.
Yeah.
Chris,
but it's legit.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah. I think on either end of the client coaching spectrum, bringing what you're able to bring is important. And there, for sure, the dollar or the piece of gold or whatever is really just a placeholder for value, and it's representative of, like you said, time. And as it was mentioned before, I say this to people all the time. It's like you can always make another dollar. You can never get that minute back. And so the things that you're investing yourself with, or the things that you're investing your time with, like are they making you grow? Are they making you better? Or are they scrolling TikTok and melting your brain? You know what I mean? So
those are good times when you can just sit there and completely waste your entire life. It's good times.
Yeah.
Seb,
well,
any
if
thoughts?
I may, and this is
Jeff, yeah, by all means.
Can I say something real quick? Like, and this is just, do you guys ever see this thing right here? And this is not a pitch, but it's literally a thing I saw online. It's very stoic. It's your life in weeks. Every week you chalk off a black box. And I'm piggybacking off of what Chris said. You don't get that time back. And I'm not good at this hippie. I joke at his hippie, like life matters, time, dollar, value stuff. But when you see that, it's depressing to realize that dollar versus that minute. And I just had to step on that because I'm like, I'm over here like, Chris, yes. And that's easy when you're in your 40s to be like, time matters. My friends are dying, not from cliche suicides and all those things. Yes, sadly, those exist. But people are just dying. Like, we're getting to ages now. You're like, oh, on my deathbed, is that dollar or that sellout client or whatever you want to say, does that matter? Or holy crap, I'm halfway dead according to this chart. Like, holy crap. Like, that perspective, if I could smash the 18-year-old me with that poster, I hate that poster. But I had to take Chris's thing and extrapolate it to that thing.
That's a great point though, because like I've heard it said many times. I've said it myself many times. None of us are getting out of this alive. So, what are you going to do with it? Seb, you got some thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I like the analogy of if you go somewhere for the fourth time, but you're always a passenger. What are the chances that you actually know how to get there? Oftentimes you don't, because you shut your brain off. You're not engaged in a process. And I'm going backwards a bit here, guys. I apologize for this, but give you a little piece of actionable here that I really like to apply, and I like to speak to my client about. And it's about how many words a minute can the human brain comprehend, and it's around 800 words a minute. But we can only speak 125. So if you're in a course and somebody's speaking 125 words a minute, provided they got their stuff together, you're probably filling the rest of that dead space with what is the other thing that I'm doing, or what am I, if I forgot the stove on, and what am I doing next week, and all this stuff, because this is what the human brain does. It wants to be efficient with time, but it isn't. You're losing focus and you're spreading your focus. So focus is a choice. And when somebody is teaching you something, having the logical override ability to bring yourself back in that room and truly own the moment. Like, this person is teaching me something. They are taking the time to do it. They're doing it correctly. They're an SME in their field. Take the time to really, truly focus and listen and take it in, and if there's anything you need to clarity on, ask again. And this is a continuous process. It's not like somehow at some point, your brain is always trying to get you out of that room. That is a natural human propensity. So you just need to consistently override it. I'm not paying attention. I'm not paying attention. And I will catch myself do this in a podcast. If somebody is saying something, I'm going down a rabbit hole and I'm preparing my return to the mic, so to speak. And what is happening when I'm doing that? The person is continuing to talk. So I'm like, no, you're going to focus on what's being said, so you get the totality of it, So it's a decision. It's not an accident.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Shaun, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. As you try to bring your best, you got to realize what best even looks like. And you'll never understand what best looks like until you bring your best. So you got to bring your best as often as you can to form the trend or over a timeline to understand, oh, that's what my best looks like. If you do it enough, you'll then be able to categorize what your current best is. And then you've got to deliver against that best. And so the moment that you understand my 10 out of 10 looks like this, the next day when you do a 7 out of 10, you know that it was a 7 out of 10. But you'll never know that if you're not paying attention to each day, if you're not even establishing your own baseline. And so to Seb's point, as he was talking, as I do over here every freaking day since January 1 on the collective, is it's super hard for me this hour because I target lock on whoever's talking. And I do my freaking best to shut down the monkey chatter and just laser beam the person who's on the microphone. I spend so much CPU time in this hour compared to the rest of my day. It's bananas. And it comes down to exactly what Seb just said. My superpower and my super weakness is, as per Dr. Art Finch on the psychological profile of an operator, as he stated, my big old brain uses about 10% most of the time. And the other 90%, I'm spooling up, working on things. I'm working on this, that, and the other thing. And when Seb's talking, 90% of my brain just wants to work on the next. Where am I going to take this conversation in 5 minutes? I'm going to start talking faster because the human brain does 800. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I don't shut it down, I won't be present. And so I really have to target lock in these moments to be present, which is not something I do every single waking moment of my day. And because I can't, because I don't have the juice to target lock every single thing in mega isolation and analyze it under an electron microscope. That's why I went for a ride this morning by myself in the sunshine, because I don't have to target lock on deep wisdom, because I've only got so much in the tank every single day. So a point that I would like to make is, as we talk about how to target lock on the person in front of you and deeply consider these various things, whether you're new to the game of this or whether you've been in the game a long time, it's not a no-cost thing. You've got to pay attention to your brain and realize that, holy, that was taxing. And I need the rest of the day off. But not day off, feet up on the table and watching Netflix. The day off and not like trying to mega focus on the wisdom of someone. Go take your day off on your bike and smash it as a day off. But when whatever you're doing, whatever it is, you got to target lock on it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, Shaun used to do this, and I kind of miss it now. Anytime he would have one of those points, he would like toss his mic off to the side. And I kind of miss it now. It was like a little mic drop. He would have these little finishes moments and be like, yeah, just go and smash it. And then it's gone. But so we're just about on time here. And I can't thank you guys enough. It's been a great conversation. One of the hardest parts in my job here is knowing that the time is running. And like, I want to squeeze as much knowledge as I can out of everybody. And there's lots of times where we'll be talking and it'll be like 12 minutes. I'll be like, okay, good, 12 minutes. And we'll be talking. And then I'll look up and it's like 56 minutes. And I'll be like, what just happened? But it is, it's such an awesome time. And being able to focus and concentrate on you guys talking has been fantastic. I have one comment here I'm going to put up, and then we're going to do some final closing statements here. But I thought this was poignant. Winterstorm says, "You pay for knowledge you have not earned with your desire to be a vessel for it. You prove yourself worthy of its weight with your time and effort." And I thought that was just outstanding of a final comment. So, with that said, anybody got any final thoughts on? I'll go around the table. Chris, you got any final thoughts on what we've been talking about so far today?
Yeah, the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time and your focus. And so like when you do engage with somebody, whether they're in kind of this setup or one-on-one, It's important for you to realize that it is a gift that you're giving them, the minutes and the hours and stuff. So I think it's good to keep in mind.
That's outstanding. Seb?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us, boys, and Chris and Jeff. It was very nice to meet you and mingle with you guys. Hopefully we get to do it again at some point here.
Anytime. I think they got open seats, I'm pretty sure I said, for Chris at least. You can come on anytime. And Jeff, now that we've hung out at least once, I'm going to safe to say you got an open seat here. So
real quick, just thank you, everybody. I know I'm hopped up on caffeine right now. It's awesome to talk to like-minded people. And I guess my parting thoughts to like piggyback off what Shaun and Seb were saying, actually everybody was saying at the end, is like, this is easier said than done, don't get me wrong. But like the thing that matters is like finding out that 10 out of 10. But sadly, because of this world we live in of distractions, is we're trying to be a 10 out of 10 beyond what I truly think the human brain is capable of being a 10 out of 10 on, because we have apps for to-do lists, we have apps for car washes and grocery shopping and all these things. So we think we are supposed to be a 10 out of 10 on all of these things. And the thing, like what you said, Shaun, about going for a run, the thing that matters, the things that need to be a 10 out of 10, what really needs to be a 10 out of 10, I think that'd be my parting thought, is like, be honest with yourself about what a 10 out of 10 really is for you, and actually having it come to Jesus about what you focus your 10 out of 10 on. Is it Netflix, which I'm probably going to go do right after this, but is it a 10 out of 10 with a conversation with like guys like us, or just listening in? Or is it a 10 out of 10 on getting distracted on TikTok and going, well, I was a 10 out of 10 today. And I think a lot of people, myself included, need to have it come to Jesus about like, it's quantity, not quality. Do you want a Swiss Army knife full of scalpels, or do you want one scalpel? You know, and it's just, I think that's a thing big come to Jesus a lot of us are struggling with in this world we currently live in.
Yeah. Shaun, any final thoughts?
Yeah, the best app known to man is the app that you showed on your wall about 10 minutes ago. It's called the amount of days left you've got in your life app. And I'm currently at about 4/5 of the way through that app. And it keeps it real, man. It keeps it real.
It's
and
depressing.
So it doesn't, well, depressing.
It's perspective,
really.
perspective.
What it is it makes me realize what I've accomplished and what I have yet to accomplish. And I really, truly have a good sense of time. And so for anyone who's listening, and if you have never really considered how many weeks you've got left, give it a go. It might make you crank up the rotary dial to an 11 if you really want to leave a mark.
I think one of the greatest points, and I was thinking about this when you showed me that, when you showed us the poster there, was you should be looking at each one of those black marks as, I crushed that week. Yeah, that was awesome. Can't wait to do another one. Right? Yeah. Versus, oh no, I only have so many left. It just doesn't matter. Give her, because the one thing that map doesn't show, and it is a great thing to have to kind of show everybody what life, how long life could be, or how short life could be, is that thing could be gone tomorrow. Yeah. Right. Like it's definitely not guaranteed that you're going to get 72 years or 80 years or 90 years. The one thing that is guaranteed is that there's potential for that, but it is not all of it. And so you make a little mark there, and
we all have potential. We don't have the potential to use it unless we're using it.
Exactly. So with that, I can't thank you guys enough. It's been an awesome conversation. I know everyone out there, as well as everyone here, has definitely learned something. We have all grown a little bit, and we are building upon betterment every day. Here on The Collective is what we do. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Gmo.
Gmo.